Hello and good afternoon.
你好，下午好，
My name is Paula
我
Carey,
叫 Paula Kip，
and I am the Chief Justice of the Trial Court. I'm delighted to be here with you today to kick off our 8th Town Hall to provide communities with information on how to access the courts and other community resources during the COVID-19 pandemic and frankly beyond. It's really a wonderful opportunity for those of us in the trial court to get out into our communities, albeit virtually, and really provide you with the information that you might need, that you might not know about in terms of how courts are available to help you maneuver some of the challenges that you might be facing during this very difficult time. We know that the last year has been something that I think most of us never anticipated would ever have to live through. But we have resilience, and I think we've been able to do it. We've been able to shift and pivot and been able to do what we need to do to ensure that each and every one of you receive the help and the resources that you need. So I'm delighted to be in Malden. I actually spent some time living in Malden, and it's actually one of my favorite communities. I always found it extraordinarily eclectic, great restaurants, and so I'm really delighted to be able to be here today. And some of the things I didn't know is that Malden is the birthplace of the American Revolution. And when the Provincial Congress in 1776 asked towns to express their minds with respect to the important question of American independence, Malden was the very first city to respond. The free men of Malden, or free women of Malden, I guess at that point it was probably just free men, of Malden declared by unanimous vote taken on May 27, 1776, that it is, quote, the ardent wish of our souls that America may become a free and independent state, end quote, setting off a series of revolutionary events. And also Malden, and this is another reason why I love Malden, is it's one of the most diverse communities in Greater Boston. And it was named the most linguistically diverse city in Massachusetts in 2016. And to bring this event to the community, the trial court's Office of Language Access is providing interpretation in 6 different languages: Arabic, Cantonese, Haitian Creole, Mandarin, Portuguese, and Spanish. So it's really wonderful. And hopefully this brings this event to as many individuals in the community as is possible. And I say this often, in that what we do in the trial court, we can't do it in isolation. We do it with all of you, with members of the community, with members of our legislature who are here today, with our city government, with the executive branch. Frankly, it's we do it all together, and that's what makes it work. So we in the trial court are proud to present this town hall in collaboration with Mayor Gary Christensen, Senator Jason Lewis, Representative Paul Donato, Representative Stephen Altrino, Representative Kate Lipper-Garbedian, also with Housing Families, Just a Start, the Recovery Center, and also Urban Media Arts. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Senator Jason Lewis, who was first elected to the Senate in 2014 after serving for 5 years in the House of Representatives. Senator Lewis represents the 5th Middlesex District of Massachusetts, which includes Malden. He also serves as the Senate Chair of the Joint Committee on Education, as Assistant Vice Chair of the Senate Committee on Ways and Means, and as Vice Chair of the Senate Committee on Reimagining Massachusetts Post-Pandemic Resiliency. Senator Lewis was born in South Africa and came to the United States when he was 12 years old. His experience has grounded him with a deep sense of social justice, and he has driven efforts around racial, gender, and LGBTQ equality. Senator Lewis.
Thank you so much, Chief Justice Kerry. Thank you for the kind introduction, and I'm so glad to join you all today in this important event to encourage and promote civic engagement and to help everyone understand, how our trial court works, how our local and state government works, and how we want to encourage members of the public to engage and to seek assistance when you need it and to exercise your voice in our democracy. I certainly want to thank the Chief Justice and other honorable judges, Chief Magistrate Brady, Mayor Gary Christensen, and my legislative colleagues for being here today and for all of the very important work you do every day on behalf of our communities. As the Chief Justice has said, this pandemic over the last year has really upended our lives and our communities. It's created great suffering. We know many people have been dealing with health issues or have had loved ones dealing with health issues. We've also seen so many people experiencing unemployment or furloughs, food or housing insecurity, and other significant challenges. But I think the good news is there is now light at the end of the tunnel. More than 2 million vaccine doses have already been administered here in Massachusetts. And we want to encourage everyone, as soon as you become eligible, to please get vaccinated. And also, we expect on tomorrow that President Biden will be signing the American Rescue Plan. And that will bring a lot of additional help and assistance to Malden and all the communities across the Commonwealth. I do want to encourage anyone who is struggling with an unemployment insurance issue or mass health or DTA or really any state programs that you may be eligible for. If you're having any issues or any questions, you can always reach out to my office or to the offices of our state representatives, and we will do everything we can to help you with any issues you are facing. And we always encourage your engagement with us. We are here to represent you and your needs. Thank you so much for this opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Senator Lewis, for your attendance and for your words. I'd next like to introduce Representative Stephen Altrino, who is the state representative representing the 33rd Middlesex District, where he serves as the House Vice Chair of the Joint Committee on Education. In addition to representing Malden as a state representative, he serves as a Ward 2 city councilor and has served there since 2012 and was a school committee member for eight years previously. He also served 16 years as president of the St. Rocco Society and 7 years as a board member and past chair of the Malden YMCA. Senator Altrino, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And good afternoon. I want to thank everyone who helped to put this event together and open the space to share the resources that folks in Malden need most right now. I consider myself lucky to be able to serve the 33rd Middlesex as your state representative. And just to get into the issues we've seen so far, the most need of help coming into our office is unemployment. No matter where you are in the unemployment process, if you're having trouble, email me or give my office a call, and we will be happy to help you. Our next biggest area of need is housing, as you can all imagine. And thanks to Mayor Christensen, the Malden Redevelopment Authority, ABCD, and organizations on this call, our community has done more to keep folks housed than any other in the state. Please know that you can't be evicted in Malden for not paying rent. And if you're having trouble, visit my website and give a look at the housing resources there. We've also heard a lot from folks struggling with food insecurity. There are a number of resources, from ABCD to Bread of Life, Malden YMCA, to Malden Helping Neighbors. If you need help putting food on the table, please find dates and times for food banks, as well as contact information for these organizations on my website's resources page. And finally, we've heard a lot about our vaccine. If you need to schedule a vaccine, you can start with the state scheduling website. And if you have trouble, dial 211 Call the Malden Vaccination Helpline and someone will help you to schedule your vaccine appointment. Thank you, Justice Carey, for everything you do and for all the work that the court system does for us here in Malden. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Altrino. It's great to have you here. I'd next like to introduce Representative Paul Donato, state representative who represents Malden and Medford in the 35th Middlesex District, where he serves as Assistant Vice Chair of the House Committee on Ways and Means. Prior to entering the legislature in 2001, that was when I got sworn in as a judge, Rep. Donato. He previously served as a member of the Medford School Committee, the City Council, serving as mayor and council president. Rep. Donato.
Thank you very much. I was very concerned that you were just going to say you graduated from high school in 2001.
No, I get sworn. No, I'm older than you think.
Well, welcome back to Malden, where we have a new revolution, a revolution of revitalization and diversity in our community. And it's in our community in Malden, we're in the forefront of helping our constituents and helping our neighbors. We're doing it through housing. We're doing it through food banks. We're doing it with the entire delegation concerned about the pandemic and how we can assist our constituents, making sure that the people of Malden feel safe, feel comfortable. We thank you. We thank you, Chief Justice, for your concern about the city of Malden. We thank you for what the courts are doing, particularly the opportunity to keep people in housing with the evictions, making sure that people are safe and that we are in the forefront of helping to make sure that Malden is in the forefront of everything for its constituents. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Rep. Donato. I'd next like to introduce to you Representative Kate Lipper-Garabedian. She's representative and represents the 32nd Middlesex District, where she serves as Vice Chair of the Joint Committee on Elder Affairs. Representative Lipper-Garabedian has had a long career in public service. After graduating from Harvard Law School, she worked as a judicial clerk in the federal courts and as a consultant for states, school districts, colleges, universities, and nonprofit organizations on efforts to improve outcomes for children and students. She also served as chief legal counsel at the Massachusetts Executive Office of Education. Rep. Lipper-Garabedian.
Thank you, Chief Justice. And thank you everyone for joining us today to your efforts to put together such an important program for the residents of Malden. My name is Kate Lipper-Garabedian, and I am the state representative for the 32nd Middlesex District, which encompasses all of Melrose, 3/7 of Wakefield, and the Forestdale neighborhood of Malden. I was sworn in 15 days into the COVID pandemic, so all of my office has really only known a COVID mindset. And we have worked with scores of constituents on unemployment claims and with many who are suffering from housing and food insecurity, among other challenges. Throughout the pandemic, I've been glad to work with the Malden leadership and the rest of the state delegation to keep constituents and others well informed with access to accurate and important information. In addition to social media posts and a weekly email newsletter, my office has created a good number of resources on personal well-being, unemployment, small business assistance, food security, housing, the reopening plan, and perinatal and postpartum supports. You can find all of these at kateforrep.com/COVID-19. I've also hosted virtual community conversations on housing security and the criminal justice system during COVID. I'm excited to be here with you today to discuss the ways in which we can best assist you.
Thank you, Rep. Lipper-Garabedian. It's great to have you here. I'd next like to introduce someone who probably needs no introduction to folks from the city of Malden, and that's Mayor Gary Christensen. Mayor Christensen knew all the way back in high school that he wanted to educate or dedicate himself to public service. After earning his Juris Doctorate degree in Suffolk University Law School, he served 13 years on the Malden School Committee, and the Malden City Council before being elected mayor in 2011. Since becoming mayor, Gary has worked in unison with residents and businesses to tackle the many challenges facing the city. He does this by leading by example and embodies the belief that we are in this together to make our community the best it can be. Beyond a doubt, he has been committed to fostering an inclusive environment for Malden's vibrant and diverse community. Mayor Christensen.
Thank you, or as they say, shukran, sia, doce daga, merci, obrigada, gracias. And I hope what I just said is thank you. And so on behalf of the city of Malden, as our delegation said, we really appreciate the opportunity. And speaking of our delegation, when we first learned of what was happening relative to COVID-19, we weren't quite sure what to do. But thanks to Senator Lewis and our representatives Donato Altrino and Lipa Garabedian, they have saved the day. And so I just wanted to publicly thank them here for being there for Malden during the past 12 tumultuous months. And we always knew heading into the pandemic that housing was an issue, but one can only imagine what happened after we learned that we had our first positive case of COVID-19. And so we immediately churned every resource that had been given to us by our state delegation, as well as Senators Markey and Warren and Congresswoman Clark, into trying to help as many people as we could. So we first started off with a rental assistance program. We then set up a eviction prevention information hub on the city's website, which served as a clearinghouse for how we could help people who were in need. But I would say the greatest program, as always, is partnering with the awesome nonprofit organizations we have here in Malden. So we linked up with Housing Families, Inc. and Justice Start Corporation to provide court-based mediation, legal aid, and rental assistance in both the district court and the housing court. And while that was happening, we also approached a lot of our larger landlords here in Malden, working with the Malden Redevelopment Authority, in particular Alex Pratt, to clear all of the 2020 rent debt that people had. And not only that, but also gain concessions from those landlords for these tenants going forward into 2021. So the emails that we receive for people, typically you put them into archive. Some of these I've saved and look at them really frequently because they're a testament by us working together to help them. It has made all the difference for, our residents. If that's not enough, we also opened during the pandemic, first ever Malden shelter for homeless families and individuals. So again, that was working with Housing Families and the delegation that is here on the call. And so what's happened is we have a warming center just down the street. They are now taking some of the people that go there at night and working with Housing Families up the street to place them in permanent shelter. And then, of course, one thing we seem to have forgotten during the pandemic is that people are still, going through this opioid epidemic. It's continuing to ravage our city. And so Paul Hammersley, who's on this call, is our addiction recovery resource specialist. And if you can believe it, he, along with his team of Malden Overcoming Addiction, actually opened a recovery center, the Bridge Recovery Center here on Commercial Street in the middle of the pandemic. And so, we just couldn't be more proud to continue to have the support of all these great nonprofit organizations and dedicated people here in our city to help us pave our way through this pandemic. People are starting to ask me now, as we get closer to vaccinating everyone, how did you do it? And I often say it's our nonprofit organizations, it's our state delegation, it's you, Chief Justice Carey. That's how we've done it. And so the one thing about us, though, we are not taking our foot off the pedal. I think, some people may be getting a little bit comfortable now that a vaccine is imminent, But I still think the issues that we're working on today will continue well into the future. And so we just have to remain vigilant and continue to help as many people as we can. So again, on behalf of the city of Malden, thank you for this opportunity. And I will now turn it back to you, Chief Justice Carey.
Thank you, Mayor Christensen, for those remarks and also for your leadership, as well as the leadership of all of the delegation. It's just been tremendous. So thank you. Thank you all, and thank you for the collaboration. I'd next like to introduce our first judge of the Malden District Court, which is Judge Carstetter. But before I do that, I also want to highlight that we have Clerk Magistrate Mary Beth Brady, First Assistant Clerk Magistrate Erica Colombo, and Elizabeth Fisher, Chief Court Officer Mark Gannon, and a highlight to our Chief Probation Officer Marisa Colandro Vaughn, and also Assistant Chief Probation Officer Judy Lawler. So First Judge Carstetter has been terrific. She jumped into her role as first judge with both feet, and she's been truly collaborative, I think, with community members, and as it really epitomizes the leadership needed for a community court. So Judge Carstetter.
Thank you, Chief Justice Carey. Hello, everyone. As a preliminary matter, before I say thank you more officially to everyone for being here, I want to say on a personal note, I was made the acting First Justice of the Malden District Court in October of 2019, and within just a few weeks of becoming the acting First Justice, we had a housing crisis of our own and moved to Medford. And a short time after that, we were reorganizing how we were doing business here in Medford with the Cambridge District Court, which is also in this building here in Medford. And then within a few months of that, on March 6th of 2020, I had a ceremonial swearing in with a large gathering of very supportive folks. And it was right after that that we shut down because of the pandemic. And so when Chief Justice Carey says, I jumped in with both feet, I wish she had told me that the pool was pretty cold. I jumped in. But it has actually been really amazing to see all of the folks here in the Malden District Court and in the community, and all of the speakers here today come together to make this court system work for this community and for all of the communities that the Malden District Court serves. We are open for business. We are here for you. We are doing as much as we possibly can safely in person with a lot of very important safety measures in place here at the courthouse. And I want to thank Chief Justice Carey for her leadership in figuring out how to do this. So thank you to you, Chief Justice Carey. And also thank you to Mayor Christensen, always a tough act to follow, to Representatives Donato, to Senator Lewis, to Representative Oltrino, and to Representative Lipper Garabedian for being here and for your leadership as well. When I say that we have safety measures in place here at the courthouse, we have capacity limits. We have a screening process for people who come into the court. We observe social distancing. We wear masks. We have hand sanitizing stations. And we have many, many other measures in place to make sure that the people who come to this courthouse are indeed safe. That is for all of our sakes. And we are not letting that slide. We are very cognizant of the need to remain safe. Now, the first step that I wanted to take as First Justice here at the Malden District Court was to forge some bonds with our communities. And many of those bonds already exist. Having moved to Medford has created a few challenges with that. But I will say that with this technology, we are able to continue to forge those bonds because we can make these connections virtually. We are also doing a great deal here at the Malden District Court to learn about our diverse community and to learn of ways to combat implicit bias and to appreciate the diversity of the communities that we serve. The first step in any case that comes to our courthouse is the clerk's office. The first step to any case being filed, you go to our clerk magistrate's office, and I want to introduce now Clerk Magistrate Mary Beth Brady to say a few things.
Thank you, Your Honor, and I am so grateful for the opportunity to be with you today. I truly love and miss the Malden community and our physical presence there, but I and my dedicated staff are here for you to provide you with legal assistance and information. Our goal is always to help you navigate through the court process, easing your stress with compassion and dignity and respect. So thank you. I appreciate your presence today. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Mary Beth Brady. I want to now talk to you a little bit about some of the kinds of cases that we hear at the Malden District Court. One of them is restraining orders pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 209A. If you are a person suffering from abuse at the hands of a spouse or a former spouse, from someone with whom you live or were living with, from a family member by blood or marriage, from the parent of your child, or from someone with whom you were in a serious dating or engagement relationship, you may seek the help of the court. I should mention that restraining orders are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If it is not during court hours, the local police department can assist you in obtaining a restraining order. Now, if one of those categories of people that I just mentioned is abusing you by harming you or attempting to harm you physically, caused you fear that you are likely to be physically hurt at any moment, or forced you to engage in sexual relations or threatened you into sex in some way, you may be entitled to receive a restraining order pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 209A. We have a number of ways that you can obtain such an order. You can do so by preparing the paperwork online. You can call our clerk's office. You can contact your local police department. We have an email address you can contact us by. There are many, many ways to do this. You can also come to the courthouse in person to obtain a restraining order. Another kind of case that we are hearing is you can seek a harassment prevention order pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 258E. These are available if you are suffering from harassment because someone has committed 3 or more acts that were willful and malicious, that is, on purpose, done for cruelty, hostility, or revenge, are aimed at you and are intended to cause fear, intimidation, abuse, or damage to your property, and did in fact cause fear, intimidation, abuse, or damage to your property. That's one way you may be entitled to a harassment prevention order. There are 2 others. If someone forced you to have sex or threatened you in some way to have sex, and you do not meet the criteria for a restraining order under General Laws, Chapter 209A, you may under General Laws, Chapter 258E. And finally, the third way that you might be available, you might have a harassment prevention order available to you is if someone committed the crime of indecent assault and battery, rape, statutory rape, assault with intent to rape, criminal stalking, drugging for sexual intercourse, enticement of a child. These are all ways that you might qualify for the issuance of a harassment prevention order. They work very similarly to restraining orders. You can also obtain them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the police department if the court is not open. And again, we have the same online resources for obtaining harassment prevention orders. The last thing I want to tell you about being available here at the courthouse is something called an extreme risk protection order, also known as the red flag law. This is something that is issued against a person who has a license to possess or to carry a firearm and who poses a risk of hurting themselves or others by having that firearm in their control. This can be requested by a family or household member. It can be requested by the local police department. It can be requested by a family or household member, and that is has a special definition as well. If the person who poses a danger to him or herself or to others does not have a license to carry or possess a firearm, and you believe that they, or you are someone who does not meet the criteria for obtaining one of these orders, you should absolutely contact the local police department if you believe there is someone who is a risk to himself or to others. But again, similarly, these kinds of orders can be applied for in person or online. You can call our clerk's office, come to the courthouse if need be. So that's the bit of legal information that I wanted to impart. There are others here who are going to talk more about what we here at the Malden District Court are ready, willing, and able to help you with. And the next person to speak to you is our Chief of Probation, Marisa Cogliandro Vaughn. Marisa?
Thank you, Your Honor. Hello, I am Marisa Cogliandro Vaughn, and I am the Chief Probation Officer of the Malden District Court. Also attending the town hall today is my Assistant Chief Probation Officer, Judy Lawler. I just want to give you a brief overview of what probation is currently doing. First of all, probation's role and mission statement is to enforce court orders, increase community safety, reduce recidivism, contribute to the fair and equitable administration of justice, support victims and survivors, and assist individuals and families in achieving long-term positive change. Although probation has altered some of our practices to comply with COVID-19 health-related guidelines, we have been actively supervising probationers without interruption throughout the pandemic. We have been installing GPS and remote alcohol devices, making referrals, and assisting probationers with access to virtual programming and services. Probation officers have been keeping in close contact with all probationers via office phone, cell phone, video conferencing, and email. All probation officers are working both in the office and from home, and anyone who wants to reach out to your probation officer may do so by email, office phone, and if you call into our main office and need your probation officer's work cell phone number, our staff will provide that to you. Communicating with your probation officer is very important, and your probation officer can be a valuable resource to you by assisting with everything from navigating the court system to substance abuse and mental health treatment to housing and health. Our goal is to assist you with overcoming the obstacles you are facing and successfully complete probation. If you are currently struggling with any of these issues, or even if you currently have an outstanding warrant, please come into probation and we can assist you with clearing up the warrant and provide you with information and/or referral services that you may need. We can assist you both in person and virtually, so do not hesitate to reach out. You will see an information sheet shared on the screen with all of our probation officers and their contact information, along with a website and app that you can access for the Mystic Valley Public Health Coalition, which will provide you with the ability to navigate all the available resources in and around the communities that we serve. Thank you for giving me the time to share some information with you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Judge Alan Swan.
Thank you, Chief. I'm Alan Swan. I am a judge of the district court. I retired a few years ago, but Chief Justice Carey has called me back along with a few other judges, in part to hear a backlog of eviction cases. And I hear eviction cases in Malden and 5 other courts. Eviction cases are governed by a process that we call, a statutory process that we call summary process. And traditionally, it has been truly summary, in that the landlord will file and serve a complaint and a summons with the court, have it served on the tenant, and within 2 weeks' time, usually, unless there is some intervening motions, the trial takes place either before a judge or it can take place before a judge and a jury. Since the COVID pandemic arrived, the court, through an order of the Supreme Judicial Court, has slowed the process down and created an additional step. Rather than the case being marked for a trial as soon as the papers are filed with the court will call the parties in for a case management conference. If both parties do appear, a number of issues are discussed. The parties are informed of the availability of mediation, and I'll get into that a little bit more detail in a moment. They're informed of the CDC order, and I'll tell you about that in a moment as well. They're informed that they have to, they remain obligated under their rental payments and the obligations of their lease, if there is a written lease. They are informed, and this is very important as well, that there is the availability of rental assistance programs such as RAFT. The parties, once these issues are reviewed, assuming both parties show up, the case can be continued for a further case management conference. It can be referred to mediation. There may be some motions that either party wish to have heard by the court. There is the opportunity for mutual discovery of any evidence that the parties wish to present at a trial. And eventually the case will be, unless it's resolved sooner, the case is scheduled for a trial. Most of the trials are bench trials that are heard by a judge without a jury. Right now, we're not scheduling jury trials in any civil matters, and that's going to take place hopefully sooner than later on in the year. Now, there are a number of protections that have been placed for tenants to hold off physical eviction. Physical eviction meaning the actual moving out of a tenant out of their unit as a result of the issuance of an execution pursuant to a judgment of the court. The federal government has issued an order through the Center for Disease Control by which a tenant may file what's called a CDC declaration. And what this is, it's a document that's available. It's available at the court and at other websites. The tenant can fill it out, and the declaration states that the tenant has used best efforts to obtain funding. They're unable to pay their rent. They've made their best efforts to make their payments, and an eviction would render the tenant homeless. If that declaration is filed with the landlord, and a copy should be filed with the court as well. As long as that declaration is in place, the tenant may not be physically evicted. It does not prevent the case from going forward to a trial or even to a judgment and the issuance of an execution. What it does prevent the tenant from being physically evicted. Now, the CDC declaration can be served on the landlord, filed with the court at any stage in the proceeding, right up until the time of the issuance of an execution and the scheduling of the move out of the tenant. If the tenant files that declaration, it stops the physical eviction. Now, the landlord does have the right to refute the statements that are set forth in the declaration. If the landlord wishes to do that, it would be the subject of a court proceeding. The other protection that's been placed for tenants is a relatively new state statute that was passed at the end of the year. We refer to it as Chapter 257. And under 257, if the termination of the rental arrangement, either by a lease or a tenancy at will, is for non-payment of rent, and the non-payment was brought about or made worse as a result of COVID, and the tenant has a pending application for rental assistance that has to be shown to the satisfaction of the court. If that's the case must be stayed until such time as the rental application is either approved or denied. And during that time, even if the case goes forward after a continuance, no judgment, no execution may be issued until the rental application process is resolved. The third protection that's gone into effect is the mayor's order, and Mayor Christensen, I think, is still with us. And Mayor, if I misstate anything, please jump in and correct me. But it is an order that there is to be no enforcement of an eviction. The way we read that is, again, no physical eviction. The court case can go forward, but there can be no enforcement of an eviction if the eviction is for non-payment of rent, or if it's a no-fault eviction. No-fault eviction being the type of eviction that arises from a tenancy at will, at which just a 30-day notice is given to a tenant when the landlord wants to vacate that have that apartment vacated. That's a no-cause eviction. There are exceptions in that order. If there's a public safety issue or a health issue, that eviction would not be prevented. All of these matters refer to residential evictions only. The state statute remains in effect until the state of emergency that was declared by the governor is lifted, and I assume the same thing would occur with respect to the low. Are three situations that generally arise with respect to evictions. The first is just defaults. We have numerous cases where the tenants don't appear, or they haven't filed an answer, they haven't filed a CDC declaration, and there's nothing that the court can do under those circumstances, assuming that proper service has been made on the tenant, and the tenant's been given notice and an opportunity to be heard, and the court can do nothing else other than issue a default judgment. The second area, there are contested cases that result in trials. Usually these are more often than not commercial cases in which the parties are represented by attorneys. And right now, as I said, the only trials that we have right now are bench trials. The third area, and this is the most, I view, the most heartening aspect of the eviction cases that we have. And they are the situations in which both parties appear. They sometimes with counsel, sometimes without counsel. And we do have a lawyer of the day who can counsel unrepresented tenants. And the cases that fall in this category are where they both appear and they want to resolve. They want to try to resolve their issue by partial payments of the rent with a payment plan to allow the tenant to stay in the unit and not be rendered homeless. The Malden court has, and you're going to hear from one of them in a moment, has a wonderful, truly wonderful team of mediators. And we can start a mediation process right away. If the parties are interested in mediating their case and they're appearing on Zoom, we can put them into a breakout Zoom room and they can spend as much time as they need with the mediator, and within an hour or two, more often than not, I would say close to 100% of the time, we get a mutually satisfactory written agreement that's produced, which resolves the case. Now, one other comment I just wanted to make, and that is when we started having these summary process sessions, there was a concern that we were going to experience a tidal wave of evictions. I have to say, I haven't, and I think I'm speaking not only for myself, I think I'm speaking for a number of my other colleagues who are hearing summary process case throughout the Commonwealth. We haven't seen this tidal wave of evictions, and I can only surmise something that the mayor just indicated a little bit earlier in this session. And that is that there seems to be a desire on the part of landlords and tenants to try to resolve the non-payment issues. And from what the mayor was saying, it sounds like his office is working assiduously and working with landlords in trying to resolve the non-payment issues resulting from COVID. And that's another heartening aspect of, let's face it, eviction is not a happy subject. And we do have a few bright moments, and mediation, and I think some of the work that is coming out of City Hall, I think are real steps in that direction. So with that, I would like to turn this over to the Director of Legal Services and Homelessness Prevention, Jason Stafford.
Thank you, Judge Sloan. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Jana Stafford. I'm the Director of Homelessness Prevention and Legal Services at Housing Families. I would also like to thank Chief Justice Carey for arranging this town hall, and to everyone who's already spoken. It is truly an honor to be here appearing on the town hall alongside you. I have some slides.
Gina, I think you might have gone on mute, but I'm going to pull up your slides so that they're next to you on screen.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you again to everyone. I'm not sure if you heard the first part or if I had already muted, but it's an honor to be here with everyone alongside of you. So Housing Families, our mission is to end family homelessness by providing safe temporary shelter and quality affordable housing. We also offer wraparound services to nurture the potential of each family member and help families maintain permanent housing. Our services are the name Housing Families shouldn't indicate that we don't help individuals. With our legal services and homelessness prevention, we can work with families of all household compositions. So we work with single individuals, we work with adults that have no children, we work with multi-generational families. This is a news clip that appeared recently, and it shows that people are taking notice of what's happening in Malden. It is just an honor, and we are really truly grateful to be part of the Malden community and working closely with the mayor and the city and the MRA. It's been a real joy of my career to appear beside everyone and do this innovative, interesting, compassionate work in the city of Malden. The next slide discusses housing families and our holistic approach to ending family homelessness. If we start with the top right, the emergency shelter icon, it describes we have emergency assistance through DHCD. We have 100 units of family shelter for families experiencing homelessness. As Mayor Christensen noted at the top, we also, with many partners, have opened an individual shelter in the area, which is something that advocates have wanted for a long time and is another amazing resource to have in the community. If we go clockwise around this ring, we have affordable housing. Housing Families has a portfolio of housing that is affordable to the families that live within. Below that is stabilization. This is for families that were in the shelter system, have come back into the community through permanent housing. The next one is our Great Youth and Families program. We offer tutoring, therapy, camps, field trips, and enrichment activities. They're all designed to help with the trauma of homelessness and poverty and to help break the cycle of poverty. Continuing up, we have advocacy, where we listen to families with lived experiences and help amplify their voices. The next icon is homelessness prevention. We have targeted case management to prevent homelessness and stabilize tenancies and maximize income for families. And at the top is pro bono legal services. That is where we offer information, advice, advocacy, limited assistance representation, referrals, and full representation. We staff 2 lawyer for the day programs in the community where we are available on a weekly basis. One is at Malden District Court, which is our first home, and through the Woburn session of the Northeast Housing Court. Through collaboration with Malden, we're also able to offer in the MRA, the Malden Eviction Prevention Program, where we again couple legal services with financial assistance. Our next slide is contact information for us. So you can reach us either by email or phone, and we're also almost on a daily basis in the different court sessions, always Thursdays for Malden District Court, and we're hopping onto different sessions throughout the week at the Northeast Housing Court Woburn session. Our last slide is different ways to get involved with housing families. There's volunteering, there's hosting drives, we have a mailing list, and also donations. You can financially support our work as well and check out our website for more information. Thank you again. It really is an honor to be here. I'd like to introduce our longtime community partner and collaborator, Elizabeth Winston from Just to Start. Thank you all.
Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Winston. I am the Housing and Mediation Services Director at Just to Start Corporation. Though we are located in Cambridge, our roots in Malden are pretty deep, and we have been involved with the Malden District Court for almost 20 years, offering services primarily through the summary process session, but also small claims and other civil matters. We have had to pivot in many ways, as many other agencies, with COVID-19. And I'd like to go in a little bit more in depth as to what our services are as we've adapted them for COVID-19. We can go to the second slide, please. We offer, I would say, what we call the magic combination, really, of mediation and also rental assistance, although the rental assistance is somewhat limited and it's very eligibility based. We've had the very great fortune of working with the Malden Redevelopment Authority to offer eviction prevention services within the Malden District Court. And what that means is that we have a pool of rental assistance that we can offer to eligible Malden households who are at risk of eviction. Coupled with mediation services, we can really affect some good change for households that may be at risk of housing instability. Our mediation services in Malden District Court are mainly day of court. We do reach out to households before they are to appear in court, but most of the cases that we are able to assist on are part of the entire picture within Zoom court on that day. And the judge will refer the case to us, and we're able to meet with both landlords and tenants and try to get a sense of what is going on with both parties, as we are neutral in this matter. We're simply trying to effect settlements that work for both parties. So we work diligently to try to work out a fair and equitable agreement within, of course, the rules and regulations of the court, especially within the new rules and regulations that pertain to COVID-19. The second thing that we offer is case management. Sometimes cases aren't ready to be mediated for a settlement, but we can help work with families who may have applied for RAFT or steer them in a direction so that they can apply to RAFT. And that helps also to affect a settlement ultimately if a family can, or individuals can, get RAFT assistance. We also, when we can really help, can apply the eviction prevention funds that were really given to us to administer through the MRA, the Malden Redevelopment Authority, to apply them to these cases in the court so that we can effect settlement. That has been the most wonderful resource really for both tenants and landlords, especially smaller landlords, because some of them are struggling to pay their mortgage. And finally, we do offer mediation services for housing issues within the Malden community. So a case doesn't have to be at the court level quite yet. We can help before it gets to court so that maybe we can help on a more community basis to help resolve matters. So at the bottom of this slide shows my contact information and also a link to RAFT rental assistance if anyone is interested. And it is a form that can be used, and it is in many languages. Thank you very much. And I appreciate your time and the privilege really to work with the City of Malden.
I think I'm next on the list. Should I just start in?
Go ahead, Judge Lamoth.
My name is Jim Lamoth, and I'm one of the judges assigned to the Malden Court. And one of the things that I work on specifically is trying to help people who suffer from addiction. And as you might imagine, the pandemic has really challenged people who are suffering from addiction. We call it substance use disorder, and this might be use of alcohol, or it might be drugs. One of the big ways in which people recover from addiction is to connect with other people, and that's become very difficult in the pandemic and challenging for many. And as we've seen, the number of overdoses and the number of deaths has risen sharply in Massachusetts and in the Malden community. I do want to say that Mayor Christensen has impressed me as a real leader in this regard, and that he has dedicated a lot of his political capital and his time and energy into trying to help people who suffer from addiction. And one of the ways in which he's done that is to appoint Paul Hammersley, who I'll introduce to you later, to coordinate the services that are available for people. In terms of how they interact with the court, if you have a family member who has a very serious substance use disorder, in other words, they've essentially lost control over their use of alcohol or drugs to the point where it makes them a danger either to themselves or to others, and when I say a danger, I mean a situation in which they will cause serious harm, either to themselves or other people. You can apply to have the court order the person into a treatment facility. And this is under Mass General Laws, Chapter 123, Section 35. It has to be an immediate family member. The only other way a person can petition for someone's commitment is if they're a police officer or a medical professional. I think also a probation officer. But if it's someone in your immediate family and you're very concerned that they are in danger of dying or of hurting someone else seriously, you can apply for a commitment order by coming to the court, or again by telephoning or online. All of the ways in which Judge Carstetter indicated you could apply for a restraining order, you could also apply for a Section 35 commitment order. The person who's the subject of the petition has the right to oppose that petition. And when they're brought into court, they'll be appointed an attorney and they'll be examined by a court clinician. And if the court clinician agrees after talking with and examining and looking at all the records that the person is suitable for commitment, the court will hear from that doctor, but will also hear from the petitioner and also from the respondent, the person who you're trying to have committed. And then the court could make a decision to commit that person. The commitment order is only temporary. It's a 90-day order on paper, technically, but generally when we make that kind of a commitment, the person doesn't stay in treatment for the full 90 days. So it's really just a temporary fix. And what happens after is really up to the person. And if they decide to follow up with treatment, they will be referred. But these Section 35 petitions are really should be reserved for situations in which the person is really at immediate risk of harm. Now, one of the things, probably the most rewarding thing I do in my work as a judge, is that I preside over the Malden Recovery Court. And what Recovery Court is intensely supervised probation, where if someone is involved criminally, they're charged with a crime or they're on probation for a crime, they can participate in this program, Recovery Court, in which a team of people will try to develop an individualized treatment plan for that person. And my job is essentially to supervise that plan and to make sure that encourage the person to stay in treatment and remain in treatment. And over the course of the time that I've presided over drug courts, recovery courts, I've seen what could only be considered miracles happen. That people whose lives were once a shambles and who were at risk of dying or spending most of their lives in jail have been able to turn those lives around with the help of the team that we have in our recovery court. Gianna Franco is the probation officer who supervises the recovery court people for Malden and now for Cambridge. She's on the Zoom call. We have a clinician whose specific job is to assess and recommend treatment and find treatment for people who suffer from substance use disorder. We also have recovery coaches who will provide assistance to people, transportation assistance, an ear to listen to, help getting to AA or NA meetings and that sort of thing. And we have attorneys to represent the people when they're charged with violating probation. We have district attorney also involved on the team. We have someone from the Middlesex Sheriff's Office who helps people when they are in custody to find treatment while in custody and to access treatment when they leave custody. This program has been studied more than any other criminal justice reform program and has been shown to really help people who suffer from substance use disorder, not only to stop using drugs or alcohol, but also to stop committing crimes, which are very often associated with substance use disorder. So I think it's a really good program, and I'd encourage any of you who have friends or family involved in the criminal justice system to encourage them to participate in our program. One of the more important people on our team is Paul Hammersley, who's, I think the mayor introduced him. He has that position with City Hall. He's also, I think, the head of this Malden Overcoming Addiction, which is a nonprofit. And Paul recently supervised the opening of the Bridge Recovery Center in Malden. And I'd like to ask him to please talk to you about that.
Thank you, Judge Lamoth. It's an honor to be here with all of you today. And at first I want to, there's so many people I want to mention, but I have 5 minutes, they told me, and I'm going to keep to my time. So I felt that it's very important for me to let you know who I am, what resources are available to you in the city of Malden, the good work that we do. And I'm going to just start with really quick, the Malden Recovery Court team is absolutely amazing. It's one of the best things I have ever done. It's just something, it's very special, the work that happens in Malden Recovery Court with Judge Lamoth, and the whole team is here. And without mentioning any names, I just want to say I'm very happy to be part of that. And we all know that whatever job that we do, whether it's a person like me or like you, when good work is happening from the top, you are able to really flourish in your own job. And Mayor Christensen, I have to mention his name because the work he does and the support that he gives me to support people with substance use disorder, I can't do what I do unless this happens from the top. And that goes as well as the state delegation as well. I don't know if they're still on the call, but that was Senator Lewis, Rep. Donato, Stephen Altrino. So I have to give a huge shout out because again, without people at the top giving us what we need and believing and supporting us, we're not going to get very far. So oftentimes I feel like, this past year, Judge, you talked about it, has been absolutely a trying year for people in recovery. And I feel like myself and my team are fighting a pandemic during a pandemic. I have felt this way for the past year. Since I've been sitting here, I just got another overdose while I'm sitting here on the call. We're getting inundated daily over here in Malden. So the resources that I'm going to give right now and all the good work I'm going to tell you about, it's all for Malden residents. These are things that we were able to implement through Mayor Christensen, through myself, and a lot of good volunteers. So I'm just going to introduce myself really quick. My name is Paul Hammersley, and I am the Addiction Recovery Resource Specialist for the City of Malden's Health Department, as well as I am the president of Malden Overcoming Addiction. It's important that everyone knows how you can reach me. My email is phammersley@cityofmalden.org. My telephone number is 781-838-2203. If you're on the city's website, thecityofmalden.org, you can go to services and then to substance use services and recovery coaching. And there's a slew of services there if anyone knows of anyone who may be struggling with substance use disorder. In addition, There is Malden Overcoming Addiction, which is a local nonprofit that connects the community with addiction support and recovery services. The website is maldenovercomingaddiction.com. And MOA offers a scholarship program as well as recovery coaching. And really quick, the scholarship program means if you're a Malden resident and you're having a hard time, we can help you get into treatment. We pay the first 4 weeks. We have a scholarship program that will send you into sober living. You will live 4 weeks that we pay for, and it's up to you by the 5th week to pay and to be on your own. And in those 4 weeks, you're assigned a recovery coach. We have put 60 Malden residents through this program in the past 3 years, and we have a very good, I think we're at around a 28%. Last time I checked, last month, we're at a 28% success rate of people still hanging in there. We have recovery coaches also, and this is all on Malden Overcoming Addiction's website. The forms are right there. If you fill them out and you meet the criteria, it goes directly to my phone. I work very closely with the Malden Police Crime Analyst. For instance, every call, every report that comes through regarding alcohol or drugs, such as an overdose, we will reach out to the person either by phone, and then we're going to offer resources to the people, or we go to their home. In COVID, it's been tricky. So a lot of it's been by the phone, but every time a report comes in, it comes to my desk, and I work directly, really closely with a gentleman named David Ritchie, and we determine the best course of action for that person. It's been working really well. So we have a really good relationship with the Malden Police Department through the Malden Board of Health. And the big thing I want to talk about, again, kudos to Mayor Christensen and State Senator Lewis and Rep. Donato. It's been 6 years coming. We worked really hard. 6 years ago, we started the process to bring a recovery center to the city of Malden. We were denied twice. We had to go outside. I sought a partner with John McGahan from the Gavin Foundation and Malden Overcoming Addiction. We joined forces, and we were able to get accepted for an 8-year grant to bring the Bridge Recovery Center to Malden, which literally opened last week to in-person visits. It's at 239 Commercial Street in Malden. It's across from Panadosi's. And again, the Bridge is a place to connect the community with additional support and recovery services. The Bridge will provide peer recovery and a safe support environment through skill building, guidance, and it allows peers to support each other's recovery efforts. For all information about the Bridge, they don't have their website. It's not up and running yet. You can go to their Facebook page, or you can simply call 781-480-4937. I'm going to share the time. And again, I could go on and on. I need more than 5 minutes to talk to all of you with this, but if anyone wants to reach out to me, please. We're in dire need of help, or in dire need to just do this work. And I'm available for anyone at any time. And at this point, I'm going to introduce the senior manager of the Office of Language Access, named Nadia Barris. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Good afternoon. The Office of Language Access was established with the premise that all persons within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, regardless of their literacy or proficiency in English language, have the right to equal access to the courts and to the services and programming resources available. The Office of Language Access provides interpreter services for over 60 languages. In the top 10 languages being Spanish, Portuguese, Cape Verdean, Haitian Creole, Arabic, Chinese, Khmer, Russian, Vietnamese, and American Sign Language. The office uses the services of approximately 175 interpreters, 40 of whom are full-time interpreters. During COVID-19, the Office of Language Access has endeavored to provide interpretation and translation services for communities statewide. Interpreters are available to individuals with limited English proficiency by phone, conference phone lines, video conferencing with Polycom, WebEx or Zoom, and in person as needed by the court, and most recently for jury trials in person. Interpreters are available to interpret for attorney-client meetings, court clinic interviews, and with court hearings such as arraignments, probation violations, warrant removals, dangerousness hearing, and mental health evaluations. Any other proceeding when requested by the court as well. The office staff is the helpline to serve the public. The number is 1-833-912-6878. This is between the hours of 8:30 and 4:30. Currently, we staff the helpline in Spanish and Portuguese to answer questions that you may have about the courts and where to report to courts. There is also information readily available on mass.gov, and you can find that information by searching the keyword facts about trial court Office of Language Access. You will see the information there and how to request the services of an interpreter. I would like to thank this afternoon the team of interpreters who are serving in this Malden Town Hall. Fari Mikael for Arabic, Sandra Shen for Chinese Cantonese, Jay Lee for Chinese Mandarin, Esther Paul for Haitian Creole, Ana Lopez for Brazilian Portuguese, and Claudia Ayala for Spanish. Thank you.
So everyone, thank you very, very much for participating in this town hall this afternoon. Everyone who is here and has presented this afternoon has helped make the water in the pool for me a little bit warmer because I really appreciate everything that you do every day for all of the folks in the Malden District Court community. I also want to address the folks who are tuning in, the folks in our community, and say thank you so much for tuning in. If you are left with any questions at all, if you have any concerns at all, please feel free to reach out to our clerk's office, to our chief of probation, to the judge's lobby. We are here for the public. We are here to serve the public, and we welcome everyone who comes through our doors, whether it be through our physical doors or our virtual doors. So thank you very, very much for being here and for participating in this town hall. And thanks again to all of the presenters here this afternoon for their very important information. I think I'm turning it over to Elizabeth Surden now.
Thank you, Jessica Harstetter. I think I'll reiterate, thank you to everyone. Thank you to our interpreters for providing language access, and thank you from everyone from the court system and all our community partners for allowing us to present this important information to the Malden community. And we hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you.